Over the past couple of weeks, I've noticed that almost 50% of the videos I've put up on my YouTube channel, I've either been talking about Christopher Nolan or it's a movie that deals with Christopher Nolan. And I'm starting to think that this channel should be called the Nolan Discussions. With the fact that I've been talking about Nolan a lot, I thought it would maybe be cool if I did my top 10 Nolan films. Technically there's 11. His very first film he ever did was called The Following. I've never seen that though, so I don't really know what it's about. I don't know who's in it. I don't even really know what year he made it in. I think it was like late 90s. I don't know anything about it. I've never watched it. So there's technically 11, but I'm gonna do the top 10, the ones I've seen. And keep in mind, I am one of those people who thinks Nolan can almost do no wrong. Even if I have one of his movies at my number 1 spot and then a movie at a number 10 spot. That number 10 spot for me is still like a 10 out of 10. I think all his movies are phenomenal, but the ones closest to me, the ones that mean the most to me, and the ones that I could just continuously watch over and over, those will be my top spots. So coming in at number 10, I'm gonna put Insomnia, which came out in 2002, starring Robin Williams and Al Pacino. To be honest with you, I've only seen this movie once. I don't remember every bit of it. I do remember that at the time I watched it, I was just starting to become a huge movie buff. This was maybe around 10, 12 years ago, and I was trying to broaden my knowledge of film, and I was just trying to watch movies that I would have never watched before, or genres I've never watched before. With a movie that is consisting of Al Pacino and Robin Williams, you really can't go wrong. I do remember that it is a detective trying to solve the murder of a teen. It's a thriller, and at the time of watching that movie, I loved thrillers. I was just starting to get into thrillers. I was trying to dive into directors, like which directors already appeal to me and what have they done. So obviously Christopher Nolan was one of the first who appealed to me. And Insomnia came my way and I really enjoyed it. It is going to be number 10 because I haven't seen it in such a long time. I don't really remember it too much, but nonetheless, still a fantastic movie. At number 9, I'm going to put Memento, which came out in 2000, so prior to Insomnia, and it stars Guy Pearce and Carrie-Anne Moss. Once again, very similar to Insomnia, and at this point, I was huge into thrillers, like I just mentioned. I was watching films and directors who, more often than not, just cater to psychological thrillers. A guy like David Fincher, for example. I watched a lot of his movies, and at the time Memento was recommended to me, which once again happened to be Christopher Nolan, so I gave it a watch. I've watched it 2 or 3 times, but every time I watch it, it repeatedly gets better and better. I also do like it too because I think Guy Pearce is vastly underrated, and I don't understand why Guy Pearce didn't blow up more than he did after that movie. The outcome of the movie is phenomenal. The way he documents his progress and how he tries to remind himself, with someone who has extreme memory loss, of where he is at this point in his life and if he's almost reached his goal or not. This isn't a video that I'm going to indulge in the storylines and what happens, and if you haven't seen these movies yourself, I suggest you watch every single one of them because this is some of the best cinema you'll watch in the past 20 years, if not more. I know a lot of people who would actually put Memento higher on their list, and understandably so, but for me it is going to sit at 9. At number 8, I'm going to put Dunkirk, which I have right here. Nice beautiful steel bookcase. Dunkirk was awesome when it came out. When I was a bit younger, I was never too fond of World War II movies. I didn't appreciate them maybe the way I should have. There's a lot you can take from World War II movies. There's a lot you can learn. With Dunkirk, I think it's so amazing that barely any words can be spoken. A movie of silence and physical expression is telling a story. and it keeps you invested for the length of the film. Obviously, I wouldn't call myself a huge history buff when it comes to the World Wars. Dunkirk was great for me because it opened my eyes to what happened during that specific time. A true story of thousands of men being stranded on a beach, constantly being missiled, harassed, attacked by the Germans. And what a scary time it would have been trying to cross a sea where at any moment a torpedo from a submarine underwater could implode the bottom of your boat. And it shows that multiple times in this movie. It's emotionally draining. It's scary because all you're feeling for the characters in the film are you just want them to get home. That's all those men want to do, is they just want to get home. They want to see their families again. They want to feel what it's like to have a warm cup of coffee or tea in their hands, curl up in a blanket, sleep in their own bed. And that's all being taken away from them every minute, every hour, every day. And every time passes, they're losing the chances of coming home. And I think Nolan presenting Dunkirk the way he did really just showed what some of these men had to go through, and I think you gain a much more appreciation for that time. Now, off of my biased opinion, I would really put the entire Dark Knight trilogy at the forefront. Like, it would be number one. Batman Begins, Dark Knight Rises, number one. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep this very unbiased, and I'm going to place the films where I rightfully think they should be. So at number 7, we have, I don't have individual films for the Dark Knight trilogy, I have just the trilogy pack itself. So I am going to put The Dark Knight Rises at number 7. Look at this bad boy right there. Yeah. So I placed The Dark Knight Rises there because when I look at the trilogy itself, I do think Rises is the weakest film, and I'm not saying that in a bad way. It's just really hard to top the prior movie, The Dark Knight. I think The Dark Knight Rises is great, but also unexpected for a lot of people, because I think Rises is more so the story of Bruce Wayne and not Batman. Batman is the main focus for 20 minutes of the film, and that's a long movie. That's a 2-hour, 45-minute film. It's almost 3 hours, and only 20 minutes of it is Batman. I think he thinks Batman is what he needs, but at the end of the day, Bruce Wayne is who he always will be. He was born Bruce Wayne, and he will essentially die Bruce Wayne. Anyone can be Batman, and that's what Christopher Nolan narrated throughout The Dark Knight Rises. That was the moral, is that you don't need to be someone special to be Batman. The idea of Batman is enough. I'm really hoping there's no one watching this who hasn't seen the Dark Knight trilogy, because that is a crime and you should be arrested or charged. Now at number 6, I'm gonna put Batman Begins. Originally, I was planning on putting Batman Begins a little bit higher on the list, but I needed to make room for other movies that I thought deserved the higher spots. But I think Batman Begins was a phenomenal entry into a Batman trilogy. I think seeing a young Bruce Wayne on screen, from the tragic death of his parents to the young adulthood of not really knowing who he is and what he wants to do, and Gotham just simply was not the place for him at that time. And considering that he was going to murder his parents' killers, I mean, can you blame him? No, but that's not Batman. And I think it was such a great way of being able to see Batman in a different light. I mean, prior to that, you had the Michael Keaton, the Kilmer, and the Clooney movie. Yeah. Being able to really cement Bruce Wayne into this realistic world that someone of his stature could be a vigilante. It was executed really well, showing the journey of how he trained and where he went and how long he was gone for. I just mentioned when talking about The Dark Knight Rises and Batman Begins, he was gone for 7 years, you know? So 7 years of just rough day in, day out training to become the Batman. And I think Christopher Nolan did such a great job to really cement his beginning parts of his trilogy of who this Batman will end up being as we watch the next two movies. At number 5, we're going to place Tenant. Now, I don't have Tenant with me because the movie is still in theaters, and I've only seen it once. So, you know, in a couple of weeks or a couple of months, maybe a year, when I rewatch that movie a couple of times, my list might change. From a cinema standpoint, and seeing how the movie, as I mentioned in my Tenet review, could revolutionize the film industry, I think the movie already deserves to be on the top 50% of my list. The movie is so well thought out, and once again, I won't go too deep into it because it's all in my Tenet review that I posted a couple days ago. The effort that went into making this movie, the science, the storytelling, all of it intertwined, just makes it a fantastically fun watch. It's an unbelievable movie to think that someone could have actually created this. Everything Nolan did with it, with the fact that it's all shot in IMAX, the decreased amount of VFX shots he shoots, and by the way, there's less VFX shots in Tenant than there are in romantic comedies. And that's crazy. That's absolutely insane. Even if it is a little difficult to understand, once you understand it, Tenet, I think, deserves to be higher up there. And I mean, think of what this movie can really achieve at the end of the day. Then at number 4, we have The Prestige, which I also have right here. There it is. Nothing really on the back. The Prestige is really cool because, I mean, Nolan always seems to switch up the genres of his movies. Now, I think The Prestige is really cool because it's vastly different from all of his other films. Essentially, two men who are both trying to become the next upcoming magicians, and they're both closely tied together, willingly or unwillingly, due to the mishaps and outcomes of their prior magical career. When watching the movie, I think a lot of people may, at the time, may have thought, when is the actual magic coming in? You know, like, there's more than meets the eye. There is something to this. It's more so not even magic. It's not something natural of the world. It's science. It's technology. And what a fantastic cast it has. Christian Bale, who also stars as his Batman. You have Hugh Jackman, Scarlett Johansson, even David Bowie is in there. I mean, what's a Nolan movie without Michael Caine, who is basically in every single movie he makes? I don't want to get too deep into this movie because I do think it is a movie you should see for yourself if you haven't seen it. I don't want to spoil it for anyone. So Prestige takes number 4 on my list. It is that good. It is one of the best he's made. Now we are going to be heading into my top 3, and I would like to say before we head into it, for my top 3, I won't get into it too much. I won't explain the movies. I won't add too many details to this because I already have planned that I want to make almost tribute-like videos to these movies, and it's just going to be a compilation of scenes from each movie with a song and just my voiceover. I want to explain how deeply impactful these movies are to me. Not only are these my top 3 Nolan movies of all time, but they are in my top 10 movies of all time. Coming in at number 3, we have Interstellar. Once again, not much on the back, but beautiful steelbook. Interstellar is a huge influencer of mine because I was heavily influenced by astronomy. I love space. I love everything about it. When it was announced that Nolan was doing a space film, that had me already. I didn't even need to know what it was about or what it was called, and I knew I was going to be there opening day, and I was gonna love it. So coming in at number 2, we have Inception, and I have Inception right here. There's too many stickers on it, and there's like a nice little 3D kind of case. not much going on in the back. No one would have ever thought that Inception would have been around in a year like 2010, and when the movie came out in 2010, it was just so original. It's such a rich idea. I don't really know if anyone out there in the film industry would have ever thought to have made a movie like Inception, and if they did, it definitely wasn't coming from the mind like Christopher Nolan. Inception does feel like a massive playground, just a huge sandbox where anything is possible and outcomes of everything and anything can happen. Inception deserves a number 2 spot for me because it really did show that if you use your mind enough, you can really create anything. Now for my number 1 movie, which won't be a surprise to many. It is my favorite movie of all time, The Dark Knight. And you know what? Let's show off this case a bit more. You saw the front of it, you saw the back of it. Okay, comes with a little book. Got the villains on the back. And then you open it up. Those are the discs. I think that's, yeah, Rises, Night, and then Begins. And that is the back of it. Love that picture. Growing up, I was a huge superhero fan, and I still am to this day. Some of the biggest players in my life are things like DC, Batman, Superman, Star Wars. My love for them has not died out, and it's never gonna die out. I think The Dark Knight at the time of its release in 2008 really cemented the fact for me that Batman was my favorite thing of all time. I can't really explain in this video what Batman means to me and how he has honestly influenced a lot of what I do. When I talk to people, whether it be friends, family, strangers, wherever my future may take me, at the end of the day, my interests in the film industry and entertainment in general, I owe it all to The Dark Knight, because The Dark Knight has just been so inspirational to me, and without that movie, I don't think I would have the same interests like I do now. So with that said, The Dark Knight is going to take my number 1 spot. Well, there you have it. There's my top 10 Nolan movies. Hopefully, as the years go on, we can only expand this list with the future movies that he will continue to make as time goes on. Alright everyone, that's it for now. Make sure you keep an eye out on those tribute videos that I'm going to be releasing in the next little bit, and I will talk to you guys soon. See ya.